course. So I started in a very different industry. Today, you might think that I have just always done hotels, but that was not the case. I started in IT, surprisingly. So I was an IT consultant. I was working for an American company based out of Slovakia. And my role was to travel the world, actually, and consult and train the users of a software. And that was the time when I got my passion for traveling the world. This was absolutely amazing to be getting a ticket on Friday afternoon and being told on Monday, you have to be in Mexico, you have to be in Malaysia, or you have to be in Slovakia, or you have to be somewhere else. And then sort of being given a task in your hand and having a week somewhere very, very far away from your day-to-day. And on one of those trips, I was asked to go to Dakar in Senegal, and I was being tasked with assisting a hotel that was opening there. It was a Radisson hotel. I was told, listen, there's a hotel, they are opening the hotel in 6 months, they need a software of this and that, go help them out. So I went, I landed, I took a taxi, I went to the hotel. It was a mess. It was a construction site in the middle of the beach. Dust, construction people, trucks, everything going on, and my little desk in the middle of it, and I was told, okay, so go and do it, which was quite a challenge. Good thing about the challenge was that because it was, as many construction projects, delayed and it didn't go according to plan, I spent 3 months roughly on this project, flying in and out from Senegal. And that was my 3 months when, sitting there doing my thing at my desk, I discovered what a hotel is. I looked at the people around me. I looked at the way they work. I only then understood what it really is to run a hotel. I understood what we don't see when we are guests in the hotel. So everything is going on behind the scenes. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the spirit. I loved the energy. I loved the 24-hour sort of operation side of it, and the fact that you have to be on all the time. And then I was lucky, and that was my sort of break in time and my luck in life. The general manager of the hotel, he invited me to his office and he said, listen, it was lovely working with you, but you shouldn't be doing what you are doing. You should join us. And you know, Charlotte, it doesn't happen very often in life when simply the sun smiles to you. And that was the moment for me when someone saw in me the potential for working in this industry, the potential I couldn't have seen and I didn't know I had. And that was my start. So simply Radisson offered me my first job. And from there, it was the journey through Radisson to Intercontinental Hotels Group and to where I am today.
Thanks so much. It's great to hear that someone saw the potential in you, and then you kind of had that moment where you thought, this is definitely what I want to do. And I'm sure in the future there'll be lots of students listening today who will also have people who see the potential in them.
It is, to me, this was and still is the most important part of my professional life. And it happened in the beginning, and I still am grateful to this gentleman who had given me the chance. But it happened over and over again when I was moving the roles, when I was moving the countries, where I was moving parts of the business. None of it would have happened. And I don't say it just because it's a false modesty and that's what people say. None of it would have happened if I didn't have key people in my life stepping into my life in those key moments and stop holding my hand and telling me, I believe in you, you can do that. You might think that it's a little scary or very unpredictable in terms of the career direction, but you should do that. It is you might not see it today, but you will be great at it. And if I think of my role today, when I have this opportunity and this privilege to run the business and be responsible for almost 400 hotels in the country, it's humbling and an incredible feeling of a gift that I can give to someone, right? Walking around those hotels, meeting people and seeing the potential in everyone who is actually crossing the threshold of our hotels. That is something I might have found it out in different jobs, but I have found here, and that's why I love what I do.
So next, we would like to know about your current role and your responsibilities as managing director.
All right. So I think it's the best job in IG you can have. And I strongly argue this point with my colleagues. The role of a managing director is basically being ahead of the market. So the way we look at our world, we divide the world in smaller geographical regions. And for us, UK and I is one of those geographical regions. It's what we call our home market. So we are listed at the London Stock Exchange. We have our global and European head office here in London. So for us, it is where the heart of the organization beats. And it's also where we have 370 hotels, open hotels, and more in the pipeline. So it's massive for us. This number in our business is enormous. The responsibility over so many people, so many teams, so many hotels. And my role is there to make sure that we operate those hotels well, that we keep and maintain and cherish the reputation that we have on the market. And we are the employer and the company that we are proud of being, and we do the right thing. And then the third pillar of the responsibility is to think of how we can grow the business and where we can grow the business, and help our development team make sure that, yes, we plant more flags, if you will, we build more hotels, or we convert more hotels in the country.
And you've briefly spoken about this, but we would love to know why you decided to have a career in hospitality, and kind of some of the reasons why students might want to have a career in hospitality, some of the things that they should kind of want to do.
So I very honestly, you know, when someone talks to me, especially my sisters and my brothers, right? I have 6 sisters and brothers, and they often ask me, so how did you know that you want to be a managing director of IHG? And obviously I didn't know. If you asked me a year ago, I wouldn't know that this is going to be my path. So let alone 20 years ago when I was starting. I think what I did know when I was still at school was I wanted to do 2 things with my life. I very much liked sharing. In school, I thought sharing knowledge, but it's probably broader than that. In school, I just didn't know that there is more to be shared. So I like this opportunity of standing in front of my colleagues, or standing in front of the class, or wherever I was, and sharing what we are doing, and, you know, being a leader of the school activity, or this or that sort of club, and doing stuff. I like this part of my life, being with people and taking a project on, doing something, and then quite quickly seeing the outcome of it. So I was quite impatient. I wanted my project to have an outcome quite quickly. And the second thing that I loved, and I always knew that this is in me, was I was born in Poland, and I was born in the 80s. So, you know, very different world from the world that we know today. And when I was a kid, I didn't expect that traveling the world will be so simple and so obvious as it is, forgetting a little bit the past 2 years when it was more complicated. And the older I got, the more desire I had to travel the world, and to be able to do it, while working, because I couldn't just afford doing it otherwise. So with those 2 sort of things in my head, I want to travel and I want to be able to see the outcome of what I do quickly. I originally thought my career is in diplomacy. So my original thinking was, I'm going to become a diplomat. I very quickly scrapped this idea. And then the hospitality was not by design. I must admit, it was not, you know, a brilliant choice that I had one day. I got to this business because someone gave me the chance and someone welcomed me to this business. But what I did discover when sitting in Dakar, and what I rediscovered over and over again, doing different things in different companies, is this is the business that is moving so fast that the decision you take in the morning, you see the outcome by the evening. And equally, if you take a decision that is more strategic, that impacts the lives of people here, it will impact the community in 3-5 years. So you have both of sort of two sides of both worlds. You can do it quickly and here and now, and you can also lift yourself and be strategic about how do I want to shape the future. And the second aspect of it, and yes, I have done it in my life, is traveling the world. If you tell your company, I really am mobile, I know what it means, and I am ready to pack my suitcase, you will pack your suitcase. I have done it 15 times. I have lived in 15 different locations, and I have been in IHG only 10 years. So it can be done. And the good thing about it, when I look at it now, sort of in time, is you can change your decision. So as much as you might want to do it, and I definitely loved packing my suitcase every single month 20 years ago, I'm also getting to the point when I'm actually happy for once to sleep in my bed for 5 consecutive nights. So it's not a commitment for life, but it's a door that is open for you.
Fantastic. I know lots of students were asking about travel opportunities in the industry as well, so I'm sure they'll be really pleased to know that.
It is, and it is the industry that really opens this door, and it makes it so much easier than trying to apply for a job somewhere else. And it's not only about the technicality of it and the visa process in some of the locations and the right to work in many of the locations. What I found the most rewarding in this process of being globally mobile or continentally mobile is you are being helped, or I was helped in understanding what I was getting into. And as similar as some locations might seem on the surface, traveling the world is actually far more complicated than I have experienced as a tourist, right? There is more to it. But once you are prepared to understand the location you are in, the enrichment that you get out of it is not comparable with anything that I have had in school or in any other aspect of life.
And are there any expectations you had about your career path that you found differed from reality?
The first is it never happens the way you planned it. That was my biggest learning over sort of my mature career at IHG was I came to this company and I had a plan. And honestly, I could have drawn this plan on a piece of paper and I was so confident that my life is going to go in this direction. And none of it, literally none of it happened. And that's good that it hasn't, because I couldn't see everything that I didn't know. So my plan was only limited to how I thought I understand the industry. But there had been so many more doors that were side doors that were hidden from me that I needed time to discover them and then find the path that led to the outcome that I have today, but never anticipated that this is going to go this direction. So this ability to be open and brave, courageous, to take the path that you didn't plan for. It's a little bit like climbing the mountains, and you know that you want to climb the mountain, and then you stand there and there's a crossroad and you can take the path that is well marked and you know that you are going to get to the peak. Or you might take a little hidden path that is not really marked, and you are probably not supposed to really be hanging out in the mountains, not going through the marked paths, but it's so much more exciting to do.
And could you tell us now about some of the career opportunities that are available for students who would like to work in hospitality in the future?
But the good thing about hospitality is that whatever you actually like doing, it can be done. I know it sounds a little bit like a stereotype, but really, whatever you like doing in life and whichever aspect of your personality you like bringing forward in this professional context, or you are thinking of bringing forward in the professional context, I can almost guarantee you that if we have this conversation one-to-one, there will be the job in this industry that fulfills this desire. And we often, at least when I was in school, for me, I imagined working as hospitality being what I could have seen. So obviously I understood what a front office is, and I knew what you do in a restaurant, you know, jobs that one can see when we travel and when we stay in hotels. What I learned when I started working for hotels is there is like endless amounts of jobs that no one ever sees, and that make this machine actually running, and be it in the hotel itself, or be it in the corporate office. So just to give you an example, Charlotte, every hotel, and I didn't know it when I was in the hotels, just staying in them, every hotel has a magic door. Sometimes it's more than one, but there is a door that divides what we call front of house from what we call heart of house, or in an old language, back of house. And the door looks very innocent. It looks like every other single door in the hotel. And yet you open this door, and this is what connects the guest experience part of the hotel with the machine that is keeping it running. And it's quite surreal actually to close the door for the first time, because you move from this usually quite serene, organized, guest-facing lobby, usually a lobby. You are in a certain light, mood, color, etc. And then you open the door, you close it, and you are suddenly in this hectic environment of, wow, this is where it all happens. And only then I understood what it takes actually to run the hotel. And that you need, you know, I started in finance, so that you obviously need finance people to run the business. You need a commercial team to sell the hotel. You need the engineering team to make sure that the hotel is running. And then on the corporate side, you need every single speciality that you can think of, sort of traditionally associated with the hospitality business, but also traditionally not associated, like all the digital space or social media space or IT space that might be more associated with Googles of this world, and yet the hospitality business needs it as much.
It's really great to hear that there is such a variety of careers available for students in hospitality. And I also know that next time I go into a hotel, I'll be thinking about that magic door.
Please do. And the funny thing is, the door is actually open. You just need to know which one to open, but it's not locked, so you can cross to the other side.
Next, we would like to know, what are some kind of common misconceptions that people might have about working in hospitality?
I think it would be interesting actually to listen to the students, right? To see whether you guys have any feedback and any view that you have, right, from where you are and what your impression of hospitality is. From what I'm hearing from the teams who we are hiring or the colleagues in the hotels is, let's start with horrible misconceptions. So the ones that are discouraging people from joining the business. First is you work shifts, you don't get paid a lot. And the second misconception is, look at what COVID has done to the hospitality industry. That's not where you want to be. So let's break it down. Yes, it is a business that works 24/7. So absolutely, there's no other way than being honest about it. It is a business that needs to run in this format of, there will be colleagues working at night, there will be colleagues working at 6 in the morning, and there will be some of us working at 2 p.m. That said, we have also learned and we have also evolved together with the rest of the market. So the misconception of the rigid shift work and the machine being similar to what it might have been in the factory of the 19th century, that is gone. The flexible working and the desire to make sure that our colleagues can work in the time where it works for them and it works for us, and they can match their private life with a professional life, is there. It's a matter of how we make those two merge together. And the second one, let me just address it because it is one of those, being an elephant in the room, is you don't get paid enough. So yeah, I will go do something else. That is also changing. It is also changing, and it's changing with, yes, the political and economical situation that we have around us. And we all read the newspapers and we all understand how much more expensive the life is becoming. But it's also changing because, yes, when you start a career, wherever you would start, you usually start at the level that's not your aspirational level. And you work towards an aspirational level of your salary, and you get there. And we all, in any industry that it might be, we all start at a certain point. It's what actually I think is incredible in hospitality and rare, is the ability to jump quite quickly up and up and up and work on the salary expectation that you might be having. It's not an industry where you wait 2 years for the promotion, because it's an industry that is moving far faster than that. So if your heart is in it, you start and you move forward. And then the sort of a big judgment that the world has on hospitality in the current context, and you invited me to, without addressing the fact that we have gone through 2 years of a very different travel experience. And I'm sure, guys, you on the line, you would have seen it with your families and with your sort of midterm experience that you just had. Yes, the travel has been halted by everything that was going on. And yes, we have had this up and down depending on what the MP has announced we can or we cannot do. We have all gone through that. We all know that. But the moment we were allowed to go out, whether go out to a bar or to a restaurant, or whether go out and spend time with the family somewhere outside of our home, everyone has done that. Whichever destination, whichever place, whichever format, we all got on the road and we wanted to travel. And summer 2021, summer for us, was one of the best summers we have ever seen in the UK, because this desire to discover is staying in us, no matter how drastic the reality has been around us for the past 2 years. So yes, it has been hard, and I can't deny it. It wasn't fun to be running this business in the past 2 years, but we are back. And actually, we are needing the teams to replenish themselves more than ever, because it has been hard and because we need to bring back this faith. And yes, the guests are coming back. We are all going to start traveling.
Thanks so much for thinking about the misconceptions that students might have. And students, if you do have any others that you would like to raise or that you're concerned about, please do put them in the Q&A function, and we'll read them out and Joanna can speak to you about them. But we'll move on to the next question. We would like to know your predictions for the future of your industry.
Wow, if I knew that, I would be probably writing a book. I think that there is, in my mind, there are three things that are going to happen, or that are happening. We just maybe didn't see them yet. The first, let's start with a prediction of hope. This desire to live the life that is full of experiences, full of connections, full of encounters, that the life that is a mixture between a traditional life in the office, in the old times, at home, or a mix of two, is here to stay. And I love the fact, I used to come to the office every day. I love the fact that I don't need to do it anymore, and that I actually can choose to go for a longer weekend and work on Thursday, Friday, wherever I'm sitting overlooking the mountains. And I don't need to explain it to anyone, because now it has become a reality. So I just take a train, I go somewhere, I sit there, I do my work. No one even knows where I am. And I think that this mixture, that the world that is going to tangle itself in a very different way that we know it today, is here to stay, which means that hotels will always become this, or will always be this place where people travel for leisure, but they will always become simply a place, a little bit like a Starbucks next door, right? Everyone goes to Starbucks, or everyone goes to Costa, or whatever we go to do plenty of different things. And hotels are there to fulfill this need to a greater extent. I think that the second element that we are going to see in our lives all over, including the hotels, is the desire to live a more sustainable life and to live it in a more responsible way. I think that we all struggle to understand what it means for us, right? What does it mean to me as a person? What does it mean to the way I work, the way I spend my free time, the way I do anything? And I don't have this answer, but I know, and in my prediction, if you ask for my view of the future in the next 10 years, whoever is not going to address it and whoever is not going to try to answer this question is going to fail and disappear from the market. Whether it's a hotel, whether it's any other business, unless a business understands this need and urgency of being responsible, they are gone. And then the third aspect I would see is we have lived in a very, yes, again, coming back to the tradition, we sort of run the economy based on the paradigm that was invented and built around the 19th century, the second half of the 19th century, at least in our world here in the UK. And that is shifting, and it's shifting with, one could say it's a generational shift, right? But I wouldn't want to put it all on a generation, because that would be a little bit too easy. It's not a matter of a generation only. It's a matter of an understanding or a moment of reflection of what do we really want our lives to be, and how do we want to, who do we want to work with? And again, how do we want to be responsible from a very sort of social side of things perspective? What I mean by that is, it's easy, or it's easier to imagine that the world is going to be just going and hiring the people the way we have been hiring them for years and years, and go with a career progression the way we have been doing it in the past. But it's unfair. It's not helping us solve for some of the sort of existing and historical issues that have been with us forever, and they might have not been addressed. And I think that the next 10 years and now is the time when those, what I would call very personally, injustices of history, they need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed in a systematic manner. And whatever it may be, honestly, and we are quite strong about it in IG, and you can see I'm quite passionate about making sure that we are a fair employer, and that we are making IHG a place to work where people feel that they belong. And this is far deeper than gender equality, than diversity and inclusion that everyone talks about. The feeling of belonging is something that a company can't create artificially. It needs to come from every action of our leaders. And I look at my role as I have to live and breathe what I preach, because otherwise I will be irrelevant in 10 years. So if you ask me for the prediction, I will be gone if I don't live through the values that I'm demonstrating and that I'm trying to make us live every day in the hotels.
Thanks, Joanna. And finally, before we move on to the student Q&A, we would like to know the advice you have for young people who would like to work in the hospitality industry in the future.
Wow, it's a very responsible question you're asking me, because that's probably one of those personal moments, right? Everyone approaches his or her career differently. I would say, just don't be shy in walking into a hotel. If this is for you, right? If you feel that it could be for you, just walk in and ask. It's far simpler than one might think. And yes, there are, of course, formal ways of going about it. There are recruitment days and there are websites and recruitment events. All this is probably there. But what really, to me at least, what makes all the difference is just chat to someone who does it, or ask the question. And you can ask me the question, of course, and you can ask anyone else as to how it really is to do what we do.
Great, we'll move on to the student Q&A now. We've had lots of questions come in, and we will start off with some questions from Patchway Community School. They would like to know, in your opinion, what is the best thing about working in the hospitality industry?
Definitely meeting people, and definitely working with people who bring it brings the energy that is incomparable to anything else. You can run a marathon in the morning if you want to get your energy levels up, and yet it's going to be nothing like walking into the hotel and starting the day with human interactions, be it guests, be it colleagues, whatever it might be.
Great, so it sounds like a role where you need to kind of enjoy working with people.
I think in basically all the roles, in a way, in any industry, we are very social as humans, right? And we have proven that being locked down in our house is really not our thing. But let's be also clear here, right? There are some roles that are extremely guest or colleagues facing, where basically you do nothing else than talk and solve problems, and you are very much in the face of someone. So there are people who enjoy it, but there are some others of us who dearly hate it, right? And we wouldn't want to just be exposed to this sort of interaction every day. That's why I talked about the secret door, because they are roles that never see the guest, and they are as important and as crucial for the hotel to function. So what I'm trying to say by that is, yes, for me, the best thing in this industry is meeting people, but all of us discover the side of life in a different way.
And to flip that on the other side, they would like to know, are there any kind of challenges of working in your industry?
Well, it depends probably on the role, but because it's a 24/7 business, it's the first thing that I learned. In a normal business, in a normal company where you work 8 hours, 12 hours, there is a break, right? You close your desk, or you close whatever you do at whatever time you decide to close, and then there is a break, and you come in the morning and you basically pick up when you left it. But many of us in many industries are very traditional in this approach, right? You close something, you left it on your desk, you come in the morning, it is on your desk. It's different here. So you close your stuff, you leave it on your desk, you come in the morning, and something happened in between, right? There is this, because the business hasn't stopped when you are away, the reality constantly changes. And it was an adjustment for me, I must admit. It is a little unsettling, right? The world is being changed around you. And yes, well, I loved it because I like diversity and I like the versatility of it. But it might be tricky to start with. You sort of lose the control over, wow, I can never get it all done, because things will keep coming.
And as you mentioned, there are obviously lots and lots of different roles in the hospitality industry, but the students would like to know about different routes that they could take to get into the industry, and also any professional qualifications that might be useful to have.
That's a great question to my HR team. I'm sure that they can be far more eloquent than I am in answering those questions that connect the school world with the business world. I think that I will talk about, first I will talk about the culture, and that might be different in different regions, but let me speak about the UK, given that I run this business here. I strongly believe that as much as qualification is helpful and it opens your and our eyes to different perspectives, and it is a good part of growing up, and we all went through the process of gaining knowledge through the formal qualification, there is so much that we have in us that non-qualification can describe or certify, that I would encourage us to have this confidence of, this is not, we are not sort of flying a plane. It's not an industry that requires a very hard skill that cannot be acquired in a different way than by having a professional training or professional qualification. It's an industry that is first and foremost an industry about people and for people, and that is based on the ability to love what we do and have this attitude of, I can do that, I got it. Look at me, I am a managing director of the business unit. I have never been a general manager of the hotel. I have, I don't know how many professional qualifications in finance, something that is only a small portion of my job today. And I did it because I love it, but I don't need it for my everyday work. So just my encouragement of not being too stuck on, it requires 10 different steps professionally, and before we get there, it feels like a huge task ahead of us. And then the second aspect, you ask how to get to the industry. I think the easiest one, probably the quickest one, is to really look up a hotel in your area, or look up a hotel that you aspire to work in. So some of those, aspirational assets that we have in key cities, key locations in the country, and then just check when they have their next recruitment day. They are running them almost permanently, and that's the nicest way, right? So you get into the room, there's plenty of other people who are doing exactly the same thing. It is not a massive speed dating, so don't read it wrongly, right? It's not a horrible event when everyone's looking at you and judging you, and it's like a massive assessment center. It's an ability for you to actually cross the magic door in a very safe environment, right? They walk you into the hotel and they show you their hotel, say, this is where you could work. You have a chance to speak to other colleagues, to people who work there, and see whether this particular location and this particular asset would work for you.
Thanks, Joanna. We'll move on to some questions from North Warwickshire and South Leicestershire College. They would like to know about any key skills that the students can start to think about developing now before they apply for a position in the future.
Try to do a lot of things at the same time, and try to enjoy solving problems in a way that we haven't solved them or you haven't solved them before. I think that the skill that helped me and I see helping other people is just gain as many smaller building blocks as possible, right? So get engaged in stuff that you might have not got engaged before, and discover what you might be liking doing, right? None of us, or almost none of us, gets it right at first, right? We try different things and then we say, yeah, okay, we like it. It's like with dating, right? You date a lot of people before you really commit, usually. Yes, there are some lucky ones of us who didn't need to do that, but many of us did. For this reason, that's the same with the job, right? You try different things and then you say, okay, I like it or I don't like it. And I would, whether it's a volunteering opportunity, whether it's a school work, whether it's a project, whether it's a summer internship or career placement program, whatever it may be, allow yourself not to be too hung up on, I want only this, because there is so much more that you might not know about, and you might just miss a great opportunity by walking past it.
And they've also asked about keywords or phrases that they could use on a CV, and also top tips for interviews in the industry.
Well, I went to interviews for a while, so not in this context. I would think what we are looking for is a solution-oriented, that's a very key sort of phrase, solution-oriented, passionate individuals. So when you walk into the interview, and let me be very honest, I interview a lot for different jobs, and of course, I always get a nicely packed pack with a CV and cover letter and everything else, and of course I read it. But honestly, when someone walks through this door to sit down with me and interview, I close this folder. I don't want to get distracted by what's written on a piece of paper. I look at the individual and we have a conversation. And what comes across first, and what at least I and we hire for, is love what you do, be curious about what you might not know, and willing to learn and willing to discover. And yes, focus on the solution, right? We all could write a book about every single issue that is around us. I'm sure that all of you have something on your mind that you could tell us why it is not working and what's wrong with it. But we usually, in all those conversations, we usually miss the last chapter, which is how am I going to sort it now? So context is all good. Problem, I'm more than happy to understand why the world is not a perfect place. Honestly, I know. Can we focus on what we can do about it?
Great. Yeah. So being solutions focused is a really great skill for the students to start developing now.
It is. Yes. And you sort of enjoying the fact that you are resourceful. And resourceful is another word probably that I would use is, and I remember myself after school, right, when I couldn't write anything on the CV, because what do you write on the CV when you are 18 and when you leave school? What can you tell those people, right? And they ask you to tell all about your life, and your life has just begun. So what is there to tell? It's to me, it was very intimidating, very frustrating, and I was really worried about how am I coming across, not being able to prove that I have done something in my life. But what I learned over the years is that I actually had a lot of answers in me. I just didn't know that I had them, so I didn't have courage to be more confident when I was starting.
And Vision West Nottingham College would like to know more about promotion opportunities. I know you've spoken about being able to work your way up, and how likely you are to progress in the industry.
Well, I'm probably biased because I sort of, my life was, or my professional life has been a life of a lot of development, and I have been given, as you know, if you have had a chance to see my profile, I have been given an opportunity in many aspects, and this is quite a senior role in our organization. So I am a good example of what can happen to you if you join the company as big as IHG. I actually like talking about the promotions a little bit differently, using different words and different language, Charlotte, than you used. So I think of the promotion more, rather than a ladder, I think about it like, you know, the Christmas decoration, the Christmas ball, if you will. So the times of jumping one step after another and going through the ladder that looks very vertical and is disconnected from the rest of the organization, it's possible, but it is becoming less and less frequent. I actually see it as a bubble of many connections, sort of linking you from one place to another, and then from this place to another. And again, as it's actually very similar to school, I must admit. Although maybe it's not a great, if you don't like school, don't think it working is as bad as school, but it's finding those learnings in a role. You learn something, you see, okay, this is a role that's going to give me this and this skill. You stay in a role for 18 months and you say, okay, I got it. I know how to do it. What else do I need? What else do I want to learn now? And where can I find it? And that applies to both the hotel world as such, and then the corporate world. So if you think of the hotel, yes, I was one of those who had relatively a boring hotel career. I started in finance, and in a hotel, I finished in finance. But there's plenty of examples of people who start, let's say, I don't know, in a restaurant, right? They join, let's say during the summer break, they join, they start working in the restaurant, then they discover, okay, I handled it, I like working with the guests, I'm good with the guests, I enjoy this interaction. Let me ask them whether they don't need someone at the front desk, at the reception. They continue working at the reception. Then they might decide, well, okay, now I handled it, I'm super happy that I have done it, but let me see how I would feel doing sales. How would I feel selling the hotel rather than serving the guests? And then they combine those experiences, and while combining the experiences, they increase the wave that brings them to what we historically would call a promotion, which is a step up. But look at I love always coming back to the example of our CEO. Our global CEO is someone who started in the kitchen. He started really in the kitchen, one of our core operational departments. He was working with everyone else, cleaning the dishes, serving food, whatever else needed to be done. And his career took him through all those waves in the hotel and then the corporate office to becoming a global CEO of a listed company.
Thanks, Joanna. I think that's really great for the students listening to know, and also a different way of seeing a promotion as well. It was really interesting to hear. And before we go today, do you have any closing comments that you would like to say to the students listening?
Oh, if you guys allow me, I will share with you the comment that I heard once, and that was sort of a life-changing moment for me. It was probably around 5-6 years ago, and I really wanted my next role, and IEG didn't have it, and I was very frustrated, and I made it known that I was very, very frustrated. And then someone very wisely sat me down and said, listen, take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the ride. And it was the best advice, honestly, I have ever gotten, and I have repeated this advice to so many people since then, is just take the enjoyment, the joy out of the day, right? Whatever you do, whether you're in school, whether you're doing what I do, whether you do what you shall not do, right? Is enjoy the time you are being given and enjoy the learning while it lasts. Thinking about the future is necessary and we can't avoid it, and it's a responsible thing to do. But the culture we are living in is making us think a lot about the future. And obviously that means that the presence is somehow slipping through our fingers.
Thanks, Joanna. Yeah, being present in the moment, really, really important for people to be reminded of often, I think.
Agree. Absolutely agree.
Well, Joanna, thank you so much for joining us today to speak to the students about your industry and for sharing your top tips on getting into the industry, and also letting them know about all the opportunities that will be available to them if they would like a career in the future in your industry. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for finding the time this morning, and thank you, Charlotte, for moderating it.